Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I'm Jake Nelson, and with me, as usual, is my co-host, the Deputy Editor of Cyber Daily and owner of the white Toyota Corolla parked outside with its lights on, David Hollingworth.
I own a car?
And it's parked outside with its lights on.
Oh, who did that?
You were pointing at me.
I better get out of here. Okay, cool. Right, see ya. No, okay, I'm just joking.
It'll probably be fine.
It'll sort itself out eventually.
Look, it's a hybrid. You were pointing very aggressively at me. Or was I
was agreeing with hello. Yes.
Yes. Well, it's always good to agree with a hello.
Yeah.
We have got a lovely new addition, or should I say a lovely old addition to the Australian aviation fleet. If you saw on YouTube Shorts, I did unbox this earlier today, being Tuesday. This is an
Not to spoil anything, but he did successfully take it out of the box.
I did, which is more than I can say for a lot of people. I don't know where I was going with that.
I have no idea.
But this is an Ansett 747-300 made by PPC Holland. It is it's the kind that you would have got, for sale on an Ansett plane as part of the merchandise, or the sort of thing you would have seen on a travel agent's desk back in the late 90s.
That takes me back. There's some kind of weird genetic memory happening in my head now.
Yeah, and it's I think late 90s sort of model. So it's
Absolutely.
got the star mark branding on the tail. Honestly, I've seen all the Ansett branding over the years. I think the star mark was the best.
I like it. Like if you saw that, taxiing at Sydney Airport,
Yeah.
you'd be like, yeah, cool, that's a modern aircraft, except
Yeah.
for the fact that it's a very old aircraft, but the livery is fantastic.
Yeah, no, the star mark is just iconic. And, Ansett had a lot of iconic liveries. There was the Delta and the Southern Cross, but I think they nailed it with the star mark, which is, of course, the strokeless A with the star inside of it, and then the Southern Cross.
Yeah, and it's blue, black, and yellow. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's just lovely.
God, I miss that aircraft.
Oh, yes, the Queen of the Skies.
Yeah.
We don't see many of it in Australia anymore, except on cargo flights. We see a bunch of it on cargo flights. But
just wonderful lines. The curves are fantastic.
There is a reason that the 747 is the most iconic passenger airliner ever created. I mean, if you want to fly on them, there are still some flying around. Lufthansa has a bunch of them.
Yep.
They have the 400s and the 747-8s, but this is a 300. Did you fly a lot with Ansett back in the day, David?
Look, chances are I probably did, but I wasn't paying much attention to it back in the day.
You don't.
Because I was doing international travel back in the 90s.
Yeah, well, I mean, these Ansett 747s, I think, had the spaceship branding because they had so much space.
Yes, they did too.
And you saw a whole bunch of them because the Ansett was also the partner of the Sydney 2000 Olympics.
Yep.
But don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone?
Words of wisdom there. Thank you.
But this wonderful 747-300 that I picked up on eBay and assembled in that unboxing video that you can hopefully see on YouTube will be joining the fleet, flanked by Virgin Australia's E190, E2, and Qantas's A380 as soon as David puts it back.
I will put it back, I promise. I'm just going to be sitting over here making very quiet vroom noises.
Planes don't generally go vroom.
Look, I'm not going to make plane noises. I'm an adult. Okay, well, there we go. Well, they don't do that either.
So, yes, we have that Ansett 747 that is joining our fleet. An iconic Australian airline, a piece of history, and something that I think a lot of people would like to see come back in a form that is not an AI travel booking website. A couple of shout-outs and little oddities. It's not every day that you have one of your news articles cited by the Greens. Do you remember a few weeks ago we had that discussion about the police drone trial in Moree, in New South Wales?
Yes.
We sort of concluded it was a little bit dystopian to have those drones buzzing around watching people from the air. David Shoebridge from the Greens and Larissa Waters from the Greens have agreed. They have cited actually our story on the subject.
Wow.
By the way, David Shoebridge and Larissa Waters. The picture we got was from, I think, DJI. It was not, we were not the source of that picture. But they say police drones do not reduce fear. Having eyes in the sky only enables more racist policing. Larissa Waters said police police drones snooping into your backyard won't make you safer. This massive overreach will see a largely First Nations community spied on by cops half a state away. David Shoebridge said, aggressive police measures too often start with First Nations communities and then spread to the rest of society. Human rights start here. We need to stop this now. Australian aviation cited by
at the forefront of Australian politics. I like it.
I don't know what to do with this newfound political clout that we have.
We invite the Greens onto the podcast. David, Larissa, if you want to come on and talk to us about this in detail and any other drone and or air-related overreaches of human rights abuses in Australia, we'd love to have you on.
And of course, we'd love to hear from the New South Wales government as well.
Maybe police. Why not?
New South Wales government, New South Wales police.
Anybody who's a stakeholder in this on yay or nay.
Yes, we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you as well in the comments on our video to see what do you think about this drone trial? Is it a dystopian state overreach, or is it a sensible measure to reduce crime in a high crime area? Now we've also had over on Blue Sky, we asked, should public servants keep their status perks? Crispy Kangaroo said, yes, a good number of them in the APS ranks, primarily outside of the EL and SES bands, are doing thankless but important jobs. Let them have 5 minutes of relaxation while they're likely commuting for work. It's kind of the point
I was making at the time. Yeah. Like, by and large, these people are still, even if they're being flown around the country, they're still working on our behalf. Let them do a little bit of work and relax and maybe have a bourbon or two.
Yeah. We're always, we got to be keen on the public service at least a little bit. I mean, in order to keep our credentials with the Australian Greens.
Some of my best friends are public servants.
Yeah. In order to really keep our credentials going with the Australian Greens, we have to support the Australian public service.
We do.
In what they do.
Yep.
Though that may annoy Brian, sadly. So that's a couple of things that sort of caught our attention this week. But moving on to now, at last, the news. And a big story that broke just today. We were all set to talk about a different thing, but now this has happened.
News.
Yeah, I know. It's almost as if we're like journalists or something, and like news keeps happening.
I resemble that remark.
But it's the end of an era for Jetstar in the Asia-Pacific region. Jetstar Asia was closed last year, but now Qantas has announced that it is selling off its minority stake, its 33% stake in Jetstar Japan, which is a joint venture with Japan Airlines and Century Tokyo Leasing Corporation. So Jetstar Japan, which was founded in 2012, and launched in 2012, Qantas is going to sell off that stake. The Japanese government-owned Development Bank of Japan will become a new shareholder. And following the divestment, the Jetstar Japan brand will go. So Jetstar Japan will rebrand to some new low-cost carrier whose name we don't know yet.
It'll be a Japanese-based carrier.
It will be a Japanese, so it will be based, it's already based in Japan. Majority Japanese-owned, but it will be now wholly Japanese-owned. So the final agreement is expected by July. The new brand will be announced in October. The deal will be completed by June of 2027. Jetstar Japan will keep its current staff, but the goal will be to, and this is a quote from the release, to proactively expand its international network centered on the future expansion of Narita Airport, as well as growing its focus on sort of Japanese regional services and expanding the Japanese regional network. Qantas, meanwhile, is going to refocus its attention on Australia and New Zealand to quote, further accelerate the largest fleet renewal program in the group's history.
And this makes sense.
And this came after Qantas closed down Jetstar Asia, which was based in Singapore last year, and basically cannibalized the A320 fleet, not for parts, but they brought the A320 fleet from Jetstar Japan over to support like Jetstar Australia, New Zealand, Jetstar, and sort of, I think, Qantas Link as well. Like, I think a couple of the A320s went to Qantas Link Network Aviation over in WA. But the Jetstar brand is now going to be basically only an Australian brand. There will be no Asian carriers using the Jetstar name
But
after
it will still
October.
be doing international flights, limited international
Yes,
flights.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Jetstar Japan probably still will be doing sort of international services from Japan. And, again, particularly focused around Narita Airport.
Yeah.
But there will be no more Jetstar. It will be something else. It'll be called something else, and Qantas will have no further hand in it.
Interesting.
Now, Vanessa Hudson said that Qantas is incredibly proud of the pioneering role that Jetstar Japan has played in the low-cost aviation sector in Japan. Thanked Jetstar team members for their unwavering commitment to maintaining excellent safety, operational, and service standards for millions of customers. Jetstar Japan has carried more than 55 million customers over the past 14 years. He said the CEO and representative director, Masakazu Tanaka, said, as we look to the next chapter in Jetstar Japan's history, I'm pleased to work with a new ownership group to lead our LCC into the future. Our people are the heart of our airline, pioneering the low-cost aviation sector in Japan while maintaining excellent safety, operational, and service standards. I look forward to leading them into our next phase of growth to deliver even more value to our customers. So it's kind of weird, isn't it? A bit of an odd story that, there used to be like 3 airlines called Jetstar. Yeah. And now there's just going to be the one.
Just the one.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where for a lot of people are going to be like, wait, there was a Jetstar Japan?
Yeah.
I've got to admit, I was kind of like that. There was.
And a Jetstar Asia.
Jetstar Asia, yeah. But they don't really impact Australians by and large. So it's kind of like business as usual for anybody traveling from here to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, the Jetstar Japan, the new carrier will probably still work closely with.
I'm guessing. I mean, those routes are there. The people know what they're doing. All the infrastructure is there to support that.
And I think JAL is a code share partner, and they're both in the One World Alliance. So, you would expect that whatever this new carrier is will continue to have a good relationship with Qantas.
Obviously, yeah.
But that's it there. Has anyone out there flown Jetstar Japan? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
How does
please.
it differ from Jetstar Australia?
Interested, yeah.
What do you think is going to happen? Moving on from Qantas for a moment, there was another story that we were going to have as the leading story in this podcast, but now will be the second one. Space weather.
Who knew?
Yes,
actually,
right.
I did. I'm a sci-fi nerd. I know there's weather in space. Not squalls or rainstorms, unless you're very, very, very unlucky or something's gone very terribly wrong. But yes, definitely weather in space.
Yeah, and this would be referring to things like solar flares, solar radiation events, all of those things.
Starlink satellites falling out of the sky.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So this is actually still related to Jetstar. So good on us. You might remember that in November, there was an emergency software update that grounded a huge chunk of the global A320 fleet, around 6,000 A320s worldwide, including a little under half of the A320-21 aircraft that Jetstar operates here. Now, this was because a JetBlue A320 was forced to divert after it abruptly pitched down by itself mid-flight. And Airbus said that this was because intense solar radiation might corrupt the data that is critical to the functioning of flight control. So basically, they're flying up at cruising altitude. There's some kind of solar weather event, or like a solar flare or a burst of radiation that basically scrambles some of the bits in the software, and that messes with the controls. So ANSTO, Australia's Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation, has done a couple of articles on this, and they basically said that the fleet grounding last year likely cost airlines around the world more than $150 million in total. So that's kind of just that's just like flight direct profits and direct costs from the flights, right? That doesn't sort of That does not count missed connections, crew repositioning,
all
lost
that
revenue,
follow-on kind of stuff.
Yeah. So The scientists said that a typical A320 will generate around $15,000 to $18,000 in revenue per flight hour. It costs around $10,000 to $11,000 per hour to run. So every hour that these planes are not in the sky is $5,000 to $7,000 of profit that they're not getting.
And Jetstar cancelled 90 flights due to the incident.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's 15,000 passengers disrupted. Yeah.
So the scientists said, if one estimates conservatively that each of the approximately 6,000 affected aircraft spent 3 hours on the ground while the software was updated, that is 18,000 aircraft hours of lost productive time. That amounts to 90 to 126 million Australian dollars in foregone profit, contribution margin alone, plus fixed costs that airlines cannot avoid, crew wages, slot fees, lease payments that they have to make regardless of whether the plane is in the air. Jetstar alone, 15,000 passengers were disrupted, at least $3 million in costs. And the foregone profit on those flights, according to Ansto, revenue that simply evaporated, which was a lovely way for them to put it, adds millions more to the true cost. They said these are the costs from a single software vulnerability caught quickly during a weekend when airlines had some scheduling flexibility. They said the economic damage from a failed satellite, a defense platform taken offline, or a prolonged space weather event affecting navigation and communications would be vastly larger. By comparison, the cost of building radiation hardness testing into the design and qualification of electronics is typically well under 1% of a major project's budget. So basically what Ansto is saying here is that airlines and plane makers need to invest in hardening their systems against radiation. They need to harden
the heck up.
Yeah, exactly. Put in safeguards and measures and whatever systems they need to avoid solar radiation events sort of scrambling their planes.
Yeah.
Which, you'd have to think would be a sensible precaution.
But it's a cost. And we know that these airlines tend to be cost averse on those things which are low likelihood, like solar radiation affecting your software and causing your planes to drop out of the sky.
Yeah.
Low likelihood, right?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
That's the theory for what happened to this for this JetBlue plan, and that's why Airbus rolled out this software update.
Yeah.
You're the computers man. You would know.
I am computer man.
Presumably, solar radiation can scramble.
Oh, absolutely! It can scramble all kinds of stuff. The thing I think here is more interesting, rather than the space weather thing, which is fascinating in and of itself, is it proves yet another single point of failure in air travel, and we've seen that a lot.
Here we go with the cybersecurity angle.
Well,
again.
I was going to bring in a couple of hacks, but also, actually, one hack and one cybersecurity failure. So we've got the airport hack that disrupted. Yep. Services throughout Europe.
This is the airport hackers in the cyber attack, not like, wear all your clothes when you're going through the...
Exactly. Yeah. The hack, not the hack, if that makes sense.
The actual hack, not the life hack.
Yeah, when Russian-linked hackers went after the guys who supply check-in software. Single point of failure, suddenly everything falls over. Previous to that, we saw the CrowdStrike outage, which again saw airlines have to cancel flights all over the world because single point of failure. So I think what we need to look at here is resilience of these issues, whether that be over-reliance on a single software platform, over-reliance upon whatever space weather's doing at the time, or over-reliance upon she'll be right, mate.
Yeah.
Which is what appears to be the case here.
Now I'm imagining what a space weather forecast would look like. It's going to be a beautiful, extremely hot and sunny day on Mercury with intermittent meteor showers.
Extreme chances of melting.
Yeah. I don't know why it was an American.
Old news sounds like that.
Yeah, probably. We're going to go for first quick break, but when we come back, we'll be more with the back with the week. When we return to the place where we are, we will be doing more of the thing.
Smooth.
I saved it. Back in a moment. All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast, probably.
Still, we're sorry.
That's what we think's happening here. Well, let's have a bit of airport news now, because we've been speaking, occasionally about airline takeoff and landing slots. A perennial issue at Sydney Airport, and there's this idea that Sydney Airport is full to bursting. Right, this is one of the reasons.
Block.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is capacity constrained. It's got the curfew. It's got the cap on aircraft movements per hour. This is one of the reasons why Western Sydney International is being built. But according to Sydney Airport's slot manager, Airport Coordination Limited Asia Pacific, Kingsford Smith is not full. There are plenty of slots available. They're just not in the peaks.
Yeah, it's just not where people want to be using them.
Yeah. So,
which I'm not sure is a great argument.
So slot utilization. So according to these figures from ACL, while slot utilization averages over 95% from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays, outside those times, it's only around 67% on average. Slot demand being lowest in the middle of the day and late in the evening, 45%. So Neil Garwood, the chief executive of ACL, basically says these numbers show that the narrative that Sydney has no more room for airline expansion from domestic or international is a fallacy. He says, we are already seeing increased demand from international carriers in particular. There is ample scope for future growth. At Sydney, about 70% of the available slots have been taken from the northern summer season, so there is plenty of available capacity. And this comes after Sydney Airport released its master plan in September, by the way, where it anticipated a rise in international passengers, 123% to 36.4 million in the next 30 years. And that would require growth in off-peak and shoulder movements or peak spreading. So basically spreading more of these arrivals and departures out over the course of the day. Yeah, you've got the slot manager saying we've got plenty of time outside the peaks. Of course, the peaks are the peaks because that's when everyone wants to fly. But we've had, again, some surprisingly insightful comments on places like Facebook. I'm always shocked when we get insightful comments on Facebook.
Those two words don't often go together.
I know, right?
Insightful Facebook.
But you know, someone on Facebook pointed out that sure, you know, you can have slots. You can have times when aircraft can take off and land, but what about the physical infrastructure at the airport?
Yeah.
So how many gates are available at any one time? You know, how many waiting bays? How easy is it to taxi? How long
staff
do you have
are on there?
Yeah.
All those overheads you don't think about.
Yeah. How long do you have to wait after you land to get into the gate and get your passengers off the plane?
Yeah.
And Sydney is, you know, again, a capacity constrained airport, but also a geographically constrained airport. You got Botany Bay on one side and suburbia all around it. There is nowhere left for the airport to physically grow. And this is one reason probably why Sydney is looking to join its T2 and T3 domestic terminals and add some swing gates. You were looking very excited about
I was, because you mentioned Botany Bay. And you know what they could use in Botany Bay? Seaplanes.
Probably. Not all the way to China, but...
Yeah, but close enough. They'll get you sorry, I'm just very seaplane at the moment. I apologize.
I mean, I can see planes right now. There's 3 of them on the table.
A small number of planes for the podcast.
Yeah. We wanted to draw attention to this wonderful Ansett one. But yeah, geographically, there's not a lot of room for Sydney Airport to grow. And so that's why they're joining these 2 domestic terminals. And by the way, we have had comments in the past like, when is Sydney Airport going to join its domestic terminal to its international terminal? It's not. They're on the opposite side of the tarmac. That's why there's a train.
Do they want tunnels, sky bridges?
Yeah. Just a
smaller aircraft to take you from one aircraft to another aircraft?
Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard this flight from Sydney Airport to Sydney Airport. Local time at Sydney Airport is now. The weather you can see outside the window. We'll have a flight time of approximately 30 seconds.
We'll be 30 seconds to cruising altitude and then dropping back down to the ground.
Yes. But maybe like a...
drink your drinks and eat your snacks real fast.
Yeah. Maybe like a drawbridge that like planes can pass under. So
zip line.
Yeah. Oh, we love a zip line, don't we? We love a zip line. But no, you can't join physically join the Sydney T1 to T2 and T3.
Not with that attitude.
They're on the other side of the runways. But yeah, that's so on the one hand, yes, Sydney Airport has plenty of slots available outside the peak periods. But on the other hand, can they physically fit at the airport? How long are you going to be waiting once you get on the ground?
Yeah.
Talking of airports and expansion, Newcastle Airport, which we've talked about a few times over the past couple of years, as you recall, it opened its new terminal last year. In, I think, September. And it has since marked the busiest quarter in its history, right? So more than 340,000 passengers through the terminal from October to December last year. That's more than 110,000 in December alone. Oh. It is expecting more than 1.3 million passengers by the end of the 2025-26 financial year. Link Horton, who's the chief executive, says, in a case of build it and they will come, the Hunter is proving that the new terminal and greater connectivity is exactly what the region ordered. He said, passenger demand continues to exceed expectations. This record quarter highlights the Hunter's readiness for more direct international services. We have the terminal, the infrastructure, and the catchment to help reach state and federal tourism objectives. What we need is strategic partnership from both governments to help unlock the next wave of air connectivity for the Greater Hunter and our extended catchment. A Jetstar service to Bali, that started up at near the end of last year.
Domestic services to Hobart and Perth.
They're expecting this Jetstar service through Denpasar to Singapore, so that it's a direct service but not a non-stop service. Basically, same flight number. You'll be connecting all the way through. But there's also, I think there was also someone on LinkedIn. I don't remember if it was a local councillor or something, or a local member of government, but or someone connected to the airport was basically saying, because there was a lot of scuttlebutt about Newcastle Airport last year. Cost overruns. Is it going bust? Is it going to collapse? Right. But this person on LinkedIn basically said, like, look, this puts paid to all of that. Newcastle Airport is booming. And well done to the councillors and to everyone who has stood by Newcastle Airport, because the airport is doing fantastically. And I've seen the inside of the Newcastle Airport terminal. I saw that before it opened last year. It's very nice in there.
You dug it, didn't you? Yeah. So this is from Bob Hawes. Business Hunter CEO. He says it's redefining regional air travel. He says these connections make it easier for local businesses to access new and existing markets and for our community to explore the world from their own backyard. I mean, that's just a good story.
It is. It's a wonderful story. It means Newcastle residents don't have to trek a couple hours down the highway to Sydney in order to fly to Bali. Or to fly to Perth, because there's a lot of traffic Newcastle to Perth. And it's a good news story for the Hunter. And if they get, and we were talking about that high-speed rail connection, if they get the high-speed rail up and running in, 100 years or so.
We may live to see it, yes.
We may live to see it. Depends on how medical advances go. But if they get the high-speed rail up and running, that would provide as well an easier way. Newcastle Airport could prove to be, a tertiary sort of airport for the city.
You've got.
I was going to say metropolitan. Metropolitan area.
You've got Charles Kingsford, you've got WSI, and possibly, depending on where you live in Sydney Metro,
Newcastle.
Zipping up to the Hunter. Yeah.
And you could connect from Newcastle to a flight at WSI if you really wanted, or vice versa.
It's not beyond the pale. Yeah, okay, cool.
But a great news story for Newcastle Airport.
Congratulations, Newcastle Airport. Well done.
Less good of a news story for regional aviation. We're going back to Qantas for a moment.
Qantas Link, huh?
Yes, Qantas Link is axing two of its direct services to Melbourne. And this is from Albury and Wagga Wagga. So from the 1st of March, due to low demand, I think like the Wagga Wagga to Melbourne service was like under 50%. Albury was under 40% to Melbourne. There will be no Qantas Link services. So Albury to Melbourne will have no services whatsoever. And Wagga Wagga will be served, Wagga Wagga to Melbourne will be served only by Rex, but Rex, I think, did slash the number of flights last year. Now, it's still going to go from Albury and Wagga Wagga to Sydney and to Brisbane because demand is high on those routes, but not to Melbourne.
That's interesting.
Qantas spokesperson said, we've tried a range of initiatives to boost demand, including adjusting schedules, working with local councils and offering multiple sales. However, demand is still well below sustainable levels. All impacted passengers have been contacted directly and offered options, including refunds or alternative same-day flights via our Sydney or Brisbane services. And look, I know you sure, you can offer them as an alternative flight by Sydney, but if you're in Albury and you need to go to... If you're in Albury...
Thank you.
or Albury and Wodonga. Wodengar. If you're in Albury, do you really want to be flying through Sydney to get to Melbourne?
You probably don't.
Because that's, as my father would call it, going around the world to see the sun. Michael McCormack and Susan Lay, who are the local members for Farrer and Riverina, not respectively, noted, yes, they were operating at unsustainable levels, but they still wanting to express their concern about the axing of those routes. They'll have a detrimental impact on Wagga Wagga, Albury, and the wider region. They said this announcement is a clear reflection of the worsening economic conditions being felt by industries and households across the nation, and particularly in the Riverina and Farrer electorates, with many people conducting their business virtually due to ever-tightening margins. Those who are traveling for recreational and health reasons are choosing cheaper options.
I like the fact they're trying to get that ever so subtle dig that it's the government's fault.
I mean, they're in the opposition. You'd want to. Well, I mean, the Liberals are in the opposition. I don't know.
The Nationals are now a crossbench party.
Yeah, the Nationals are on the crossbench for the next, I don't know, week or two. Kevin Mack, the mayor of Albury, has told the Border Mail newspaper that the council is going to be looking into potential replacements for the Qantas Link service to Melbourne. He said, Albury City maintains regular engagement with airline partners in the broader aviation sector. We are actively exploring opportunities to strengthen and expand regional air services, including discussions about reinstating Melbourne connections and improving overall service coverage. Our focus remains on securing reliable, commercially sustainable air services that meet the needs of our community and the regional economy. And I want to sort of bring back in here, this is one of the reasons that was being bandied about for why the government last year might have wanted to nationalize Rex. Because, yes, we're connecting this back to Rex again. We're bringing Rex into this, I know.
Stop trying to make Rex happen.
Yeah, but the plane's minor earthquake on the table here. But the argument goes, and this was the same argument that Ben Chifley used when he was setting up Trans-Australia Airlines, TAA, in the 40s, that regional aviation should be treated like, or aviation should be treated like a bus.
Like a national service. It's public transport.
Public transport, yes. So, Rex, if it were nationalized, or a nationalized airline, would probably continue operating these services even if they weren't commercially profitable.
Yeah.
Qantas, as a private company, has to answer to its shareholders. Has to answer to the ASX and the profit margins and all of that. And so, if a service is not sustainable, service gets the chop. Whereas, if it was treated like public transport, or, if the government subsidized these routes, or contracted Qantas to run these routes, or contracted somebody to run these routes, then the routes would keep going, even if the load factors are small.
Even if the laws of supply and demand don't add up, the government's backing it, so it works.
It's like, a rural bus service. I mean, my fiance and I, we used to drive up to Gloucester on the mid-north coast, near Taree, Gloucester?
Yep.
You used to drive up to Gloucester, and the main road connecting Gloucester to the Pacific Highway is called the Buckets Way. Absolute nightmare. But the Buckets Way has all these little towns along its length, right?
Yep.
And, these towns, like, some of them have a couple hundred people, some of them have, 50 people or a couple dozen, but they have bus stops.
Yeah.
And the buses will, run between Gloucester and Taree, and they will stop at these bus stops, some of which is just like a bus stop, like a sign on the corner of a road that connects to another road.
Not even a shed.
Yeah. But it will do those because people out there do need to be able to catch the bus up to Gloucester or to Taree or to Newcastle or wherever it is that they need to go. A public bus route, if it is run by the government or by a company that is contracted to do it, will keep running a bus service out to, West Whoop Whoop, even if it's
I was going to go with Whoopie-doo, but Whoop Whoop works well.
Yeah, sure. Even up to Upper Kumbucka West, even if it's only Grandma Josephine and Grandpa Joe heading down to the chocolate shop every Sunday. We go
Okay. Wow.
with Grandpa George and Grandma Georgina.
Yep.
This is before the whole Willy Wonka thing, but they were still getting out of bed. I don't know.
Okay, stop.
The mythos
Get
is
us
getting
back
confused.
on track. Back on track.
So a public bus service, the idea is that these regional airlines should be operating like a public bus. That they should still be going to these places. So if you're living now in Albury and you want to go to Melbourne, your options are drive.
Yep.
Get a coach or a train, or if you don't want to do that, fly via Sydney or Brisbane, I guess.
Adelaide? Surely Adelaide could come into this.
I don't think Albury has a direct connection to Adelaide.
It does.
But,
No.
So I don't know if people from Albury want to fly to Sydney and then back down to Melbourne.
I mean, look, for all that, the socialist in me thinks, yes, nationalise that route. It's obviously necessary. It's the obverse of what we talked about in that last Newcastle thing.
Yeah.
If you build it and no one comes, what do you do then?
Yeah.
And if no one's taking advantage of these flights and it's clearly expensive to run, aircraft are not cheap, as we often discuss, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully...
I hope a solution can be found to this.
I do. Maybe through Rex, maybe a local operator, Sharp Airlines might want to get in on it.
Yeah.
But this is why regional airlines can be so awkward about these things.
Yeah. I mean, the margins are so much higher, higher and lower.
Yeah. I mean, I come back again and again to what Rob Walker, Regional Aviation Association, said, that like if you look at a Q400 and you sort of break it down, if you break the rows of seats down in terms of costs and profits, I think only the last row of seats on that Q400 are going to be profitable once you take into account fuel costs and crew costs and fees and all of the things that...
Yeah.
So it's tricky. And like what a regional airline really needs is, a subsidy or a contract or a, government owner to keep it on these routes, even when the load factors alone would not be profitable.
Yep.
We're going to go for one more quick break. When we come back, we'll be back with more of the. We'll be doing more of the thing. I don't know where I'm going.
We'll be back in a moment. Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly that. All right, welcome back to the Australian Aviation Podcast, where we're deteriorating at
If you're still
alarming
listening,
rate.
we're sorry.
Going to a couple of smaller stories that we've noticed. This is a story that came to us today from the CSIRO.
Oh, we're going back to space.
No.
Oh, aerospace. Sorry, it's a space
aerospace.
thing, and I got very, very excited.
Space is involved, but this is the CSIRO's new Aviators in Schools program, which is aiming to connect school students with professionals in the sector to promote STEM careers. It's part of this broader push by CSIRO to get STEM professionals in schools in front of students. To bring real world learning into classrooms and inspire kids to go, hey, I could do that. So this Aviators in School programs is focusing on flexible industry partnerships, including things like mentoring, site visits, hands-on demos, career talks, co-developed projects aligned with curriculum goals. That's a direct quote. And CSIRO says this will help students understand the connection between learning STEM and getting a real career. And I wanted to touch on this because this is something that has been a topic of discussion for a while. And if you come to the Aviation Summit, or if you go to our Space Summit, you'll hear over and over again, we need to get people in the schools. We need to get these kids, we need to show them you can have a career in aviation, or you can have a career in the space sector, or in aerospace generally, right? We have a skills shortage at the moment. And the way to combat that, or one way to combat that, is to go and show these kids, this is what you could be doing, right? You could be a drone pilot. You could be an aircraft engineer. You could be a regular pilot. You could be, working on designing planes or spaceships or whatever. These are all of the things that you could be doing. You could be working in orbital launch or low Earth observation.
There's so much capacity there for people to step into roles which are fascinating and vital.
Exactly. as well as this, the CSIRO and Aviation Aerospace Australia, which is partnering with CSIRO on this, Antoinette Daly, hello Annie if you're listening, great friend of the show, says that the scheme addresses known barriers to participation. So she says, evidence consistently shows that when we have a diverse workforce, we bring in new perspectives, make stronger decisions, and create the kind of collaborative energy that drives real creativity and innovation. She says, we know that a lack of access to relevant role models and mentors, as well as awareness about the opportunities available, especially in non-traditional roles such as engineering and technical jobs, continue to present a significant barrier to participation. We're proud to partner with the CSIRO to address these gaps and attract new talent, particularly women, to the industry.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, what's the saying? You can't be what you can't see.
No,
exactly.
I absolutely agree. And Stevie Ann Fleck, who's a teacher at the Findon Primary School in Victoria, who took part in the program, I love what she says here. Students were engaged in the lessons and experiments, and it was fascinating to see them see real-world connections, especially when activities like making lava lamps linked to aerospace engineering. Sometimes it's hard for students to connect their learning to real-life scenarios or imagine where their interests could take them. Having someone working in the field share their passion and experiences really helps spark their thinking in STEM.
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
You know, if young girls in schools can see, you know, hey, this is what I could. Here is a woman who is working in the aerospace sector. She is a pilot. She is a drone pilot. She's an engineer. I could do this. I love, you know, maths. I love doing things with my hands. I love challenges like this. Or, you know, a young Indigenous kid in school, you know, seeing leaders like this, seeing, you know, Indigenous leaders or First Nations people in aerospace and going, I could do this. I'm smart. I'm good with my hands. I can do whatever. It promotes the idea that everyone has a shot.
Yeah. And I love it's worth pointing out the illustration of this article, which I think is fantastic. It's a photo of, if you aren't familiar with the article, go check it out now. CSIRO connects school students with aerospace professionals. And it's a photo of Amanda Mays, chief remote pilot at the CSIRO, demonstrating drone use as part of the Aviators in Schools program. And it's a young woman looking absolutely fascinated about what's happening. There is nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this at all. It's fantastic.
It's wonderful. Going briefly to foreign news, we have had the report into and this is less good news, the mid-air collision in Washington last year.
You know, the news cycle is so weird. I've not thought of that since it happened. It's like it dominated.
2025 was a long 7 years.
It was, yes. And 2026 is proving to be the longest century of my life.
Yes. But the NTSB, and I just want to touch on this semi-briefly, but has blamed deep underlying systemic failures for the mid-air collision. This was 67 people died when the CRJ-700, the American Airlines plane, collided with the U.S. Army Black Hawk. System flaws aligned to cause the crash. She said these underlying deficiencies, often referred to as latent conditions or systemic vulnerabilities, were aligned to allow for the worst U.S. aviation disaster in terms of fatalities since November 2001. I note that she said November rather than earlier in 2001 because obviously.
Yep.
There was a confluence of different factors that resulted in the disaster. There was failures by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to act on concerns that had been reported about helicopter separation in the congested airspace around DC. Heavy reliance on visual separation, instrument failures on the Black Hawk. There was only one air traffic controller handling both and helicopter traffic on the night of the crash. She was damning of FAA regulators who had not acted on these reports of 80 close calls between helicopters and passenger planes in the years leading up to the accident. She said it was one failure after another. She said we should be angry because for years no one listened. This was preventable. This was 100% preventable. But
whoa. Wait, that helicopter route crossed the runway?
Yeah, well, went near the runway at least, like, or the flight path coming off the runway or something like that.
Yeah, it was 75 feet of vertical separation.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the airspace is that okay. Nowhere. No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
I mean, I'm no professional.
But
however,
if you cast your mind
contraindicated.
If you cast your mind back to early 2025, if you are capable of doing that, because
I'm trying not to.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk from certain quarters.
Yes.
About, this is what happens when you have...
It's a diversity hire.
It's DEI pilots, this is what happens when people with blue hair are air traffic controllers or whatever.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, it isn't. While human error did play a part in the disaster, yes, people made mistakes. The Homendy, the Jennifer Homendy, the chair of the NTSB, in her opening remarks, cautioned against blaming individuals. She said human error is a symptom of a system that needs to be redesigned. She said there's a tendency in the immediate aftermath of any accident we investigate to question human error on the actions or inactions of individuals. Human error in complex systems like our modern aviation system and the national airspace system isn't a cause, it's a consequence. Many things need to go wrong for an accident to occur.
And clearly those things were going wrong well before this incident.
She said, to quote research from the Highway Traffic Safety Administration, what we refer to as human error is in reality the last event in the causal chain immediately preceding a crash. Yeah. So, if it's like the Swiss cheese model that we heard about during COVID. If all the holes in the Swiss cheese line up, bad stuff happens, right? Yep. If there had been more air traffic controllers on duty, if the FAA had taken these reports seriously, if there would not been all this reliance on visual separation, if any of these things had not been true, that aircraft would have gone on its merry way. Right? Yeah. Very, very, very likely.
I've got to say, that's 75 feet of vertical separation.
That's not great.
I'm just imagining how I'd feel knowing, coming into Sydney Kingsford, that 75 feet above me,
or below,
a Black Hawk is scudding by. I mean, I don't like it. In fact, at Canberra Airport, where those wind gusts can really, that 75 feet ain't enough.
Yeah.
You could bounce right up into that helicopter or down into it like that.
Exactly.
That's just, oh my Lord.
And we have as well in Australia, the ATSB has its no blame policy. Like it does not ascribe blame to one individual for events. It does not name people by policy, and that's so people aren't afraid to come forward.
Because these are complex systems,
and people need to be able to come forward and talk about these things without worrying that they're going to get criminally prosecuted. But like human error, people want a bad guy. People want one incompetent air traffic controller or one incompetent pilot to blame.
It's a comforting fiction.
And sometimes there are incompetent pilots, like that one Russian pilot who let his 15-year-old son fly the plane.
Well, you had me at Russian pilot, thank you.
Yeah. But, again, that's that. There were other systems that should have been in place to prevent that from happening, and there was not. And there was a tragic incident. There was a flight. There was a plane. There was a collision somewhere in Europe. I don't remember where. But there was a plane with Russians on it, and like another plane that collided in midair. There was one air traffic controller who was covering a bunch of different stations. He missed that. He messed up because he was trying to cover so many different things at once. Doing too much.
If I'm doing too much at work, I might misspell a word.
Yeah.
If an air traffic controller is doing too much at work, people die.
Yeah, so he was overworked. He missed the circumstances that led to these planes colliding. And like in the Russian media and in the Russian mythos, he got the blame.
The problem. Yeah.
He was incompetent. He killed a bunch of Russian people. Like there was he was murdered. He was murdered by a parent, I think, or a relative.
God, I was about to make a horrible joke. I'm glad I didn't now.
Yeah, he was murdered by someone whose family members were on that plane. And like, I think, in Russia, or at least in a significant chunk of the Russian populace, he was treated as a hero for doing that. Like there was a whole movie about his quest for righteous revenge. And
Liam
it's like
Neeson playing the lead character. God.
Yeah, you can't blame. It is important to look at the whole picture.
There is no such thing as a single point of failure unless it's a locking nub on a Boeing aircraft.
Exactly.
But even that's systemic of up issue failures down. It's nothing is as simple as people like it to be.
Finally, we're going to wrap things up with a short thing because I could not pass this by. Qantas. What's interesting about this is not that Qantas has introduced extra legroom seats.
Great for people with extra legs.
Yeah, exactly. It's rolling out this week. It's Economy Plus extra legroom seating. The product will be coming to A330s later this year. It'll be on Boeing 737-800s, A321XLRs from Airbus, and A220-300s on domestic and short haul international services. Also, by the way, extra toilets are coming to the A321 XLRs finally, which is nice. Four toilets instead of 3. But what's interesting about this is that Virgin has had Economy X, which has the same kind of perks, extra legroom seating, priority access to overhead bins, priority boarding for ages now, right? Virgin has been all over this for a while, and this Economy Plus project is competing directly with Economy X from Virgin. And Virgin has kind of come out the gate with the launch of this Economy Plus product. They've launched a $15 Economy X sale. So if Economy X upgrades for just $15 per person per sector. And they've said in their press release, reinforcing that when it comes to extra comfort, more space, and priority perks, the original still does it best. Winky face emoji.
Cheeky.
Virgin has had this since 2017.
Yeah.
Virgin Australia spokesperson says, we've always believed Australians want choice, value, and a better experience in the air. Economy X has been delivering exactly that for years, so it's no surprise that others are now taking notice. And Virgin says, while other Australian airlines are only just catching up to Economy X, innovation has always set Virgin Australia apart, with the airline consistently delivering first-to-market initiatives designed to give travellers more choice, comfort, and value. Meow.
Look, I would say, let them have their fun.
Yeah,
and ultimately, they can
they
play all
can
these
crow
games
about
as they
it for
want. But
ages.
if it gives me a bit more capacity to get slightly better than economy, business class is way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But, upgrading to, Economy Plus or anything like this, that's doable. And that little bit of room.
And, if you follow my actual travel hack and you sort of wait to pick your seat for a little while before departure, maybe if you can get a seat in the exit row.
Maybe, yep.
But yes, so Virgin clapping back, I think, as the kids call it these days, on Qantas's Economy Plus rollout, and being a little cheeky about it.
But hey, it's the travellers who win.
It is the travellers who win. And I think that's the note that we'll end it on.
I think it is.
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I have been Jake Nelson.
I remain David Hollingworth. I got to get to my car. It's still on, I bet.
It's a hybrid, but those batteries don't last forever. We will see you on the Australian Aviation Podcast same time next week. But for now, from us, goodbye.
Bye-bye.